In this edition of Service News, a feature on Arlington of Blackburn, a selection of service fixes, and we travel with Tony Pond as he races around the Isle of Man. Hello, and welcome to this latest edition of Service News. As usual, we have a program packed with service fixes and useful information. But first, you may have seen in the national press that Rover have been breaking quite a few records. Here's Mike with a look at what's been happening.
The Transworld Venture was an attempt to drive around the world in record time. Six drivers from the Army Ordnance Corps drove two Rover 827 SIs over 52,000 miles. 5 continents, and 39 days later they were back in London, smashing the previous record by a massive 30 days. With all that extensive driving through different climates, the 827s didn't suffer from a single mechanical failure. We'll be taking a look at some more record-breaking activities later on in the programme. Now, let's take a look at a service fix covered in the Rover 200 and 400 technical newsletter.
Recently, there have been a number of cases where brakes have been adjusted unnecessarily. This is happening at PDI or models fitted with self-adjusting rear drum brakes. To make sure you're not wasting your time adjusting a non-existent fault, here are some checks to carry out before you start doing any adjustments to the brakes. We'll start by looking at the handbrake. If the car has a few miles on the clock, check there is a very small gap between the handbrake levers and their stops. Now press the brake pedal a few times. This will make sure the brake adjusters are set correctly. Now pull on the handbrake with a force of 20 kilograms. The handbrake shouldn't rise more than 10 clicks. If it does, raise the rear of the car and set the handbrake lever on 1 click. Now tighten the adjusting nut until you can feel a slight resistance on either of the wheels. With the handbrake off, the wheels should turn freely. Now recheck the handbrake, again pulling on it with a force of 20 kilograms. The handbrake should now be within the tolerance. Now let's take a look at the foot brake. If you suspect the pedal travel is too long, take a measurement from the front seat to the brake pedal rubber. Start the engine and press down on the brake pedal with 2 fingers. Now measure the new distance between the same 2 points. If the difference between the 2 readings is out of tolerance, then try the next test, and this time push down with a force of 20 kilograms. If your readings are still out of tolerance, you'll need to check the braking system. The first thing to do is check for a fluid leak. If there's no sign of a leak, press the brake to evacuate the servo. Now press the brake pedal again. If the travel of the pedal is still too long, the system will need bleeding. If bleeding the system doesn't cure the problem, the next step is to isolate the main components. You can do this by clamping all 4 flexible brake hoses. Now press the pedal. If it has a long travel, the master cylinder is faulty and will need replacing. If the pedal is firm, the problem lies elsewhere. Remove the clamps one at a time. If the pedal is firm, this part of the circuit is okay. Now replace the clamp and do this to all 4 wheels until you've found a part that's faulty. In October, 500 service managers attended a seminar held at the Product Training College in Cowley. Several one-day sessions were held with the objective of improving the existing chain of information and highlighting new methods of communication. Following an introduction by Service Director Roy Davis, the delegates were given a guided tour of Cowley operations to see the Maestro, Montego and Rover 800 being built. 5 speakers, managers and engineers from key departments within Rover service, then delivered speeches which explained their role in closing the loop which links us all in one way or another to the final customer. Harry State, manager of network service, summarised the day's events by restating the vitally important role which every dealer has to play in closing the loop and encouraged service managers to take an active part in the Monitor Dealer programme. The aim of widening this already successful programme is to forge even greater links and improve the working relationship between Rover cars and you in the service network.
Now let's take a look at sunroofs on Maestro and Montego. We can identify 3 potential problem areas on sunroofs. These are water leaks, jamming and wind noise. If you're unfamiliar with sunroofs, take a look at the Service Insight video. This will give you some very good background information. We'll start by looking at water leaks. Any water that hits the sunroof has to be able to drain off without entering the car. This is done by the drain tubes. The sunroofs fitted to the Maestro and Montego have 4 drain tubes, 2 at the front and 2 at the back. Before you carry out any work on the sunroof, check the drain tubes aren't blocked or kinked. Pour water into the tray and see if it drains away. If it doesn't, it could cause the head lining to become damp. You may be able to unblock a pipe by giving it a sharp tug. If not, you'll have to remove it. If the pipe is kinked, work it out and wrap tape around it. If it's blocked, try running a length of wire through it. If this doesn't cure it, fit a new pipe. Now, refit the pipe upside down. If the water can't drain away, it will eventually leak into the car. There are 3 main places where water can soak through. At the top of the A-posts, the 4 corners of the sunroof aperture, and through the courtesy lights. We'll start with the top of the A-post. Lower the head lining and check the drain tubes have been fitted correctly. Now, check the weld between the sunroof tray and the outlet pipe. You can do this by spraying water into the pipe and seeing if any water leaks through. If the weld isn't good, the tray will have to be replaced. If this is okay, check the foam gasket is clear of the aperture flange. If it does touch, you'll have to remove the tray and fit a new single strip gasket. You can also check to see if there's a gap between the body seams. If it looks as though water is getting through, they'll need to be sealed. A wide gap between the lid seal and the body could also cause the headlining to become damp at the front. Loosen the 6 Torx screws holding the lid and centralize it in the aperture. If you can't get it central, remove it and file the slot slightly wider. Be careful not to take more than 2 mil off the front of the slots. If you still can't centralize the lid, you'll have to remove the headlining and move the tray forward until it's in the right position. Centralizing the lid can also cure the problem of wind noise. Another cause of leaks is water missing the rear blend seal and running onto the guide rail. This could cause water to escape at any corner of the sunroof aperture. If you think this is the case, close the sunroof. Now adjust the position of the lid to reduce the gap at the rear edge. If this doesn't cure the problem, fit a new modified blend. If you suspect water's leaking between the glass and its frame, there's a simple test to carry out. Remove the lid and place it upside down on a couple of blocks of wood. Now fill it with water. If water leaks through, the lid will have to be replaced. Finally, if you can see water under the inside edge of the slide rail, carry out the following test. Block the drain tubes and fill the drain channels with water. The water should be level with the stainless steel guide rail. Leave it for 5 to 10 minutes, then check to see if any water has soaked through to the other side of the rail. Now drain off the water and raise the rear of the car. Look to see if any water drips into the passenger compartment. If it does, replace the tray assembly. A damp patch to the rear of the sunroof on Montego Estates is caused by water running back under the roof panel and missing the drain channel. To cure this, bend the body flange upwards. Be very careful not to damage the paintwork.
Well, that's water leaks covered. Now, let's take a look at jamming. If the lid gets stuck on the back of the aperture, it's set too far back. Loosen off the 6 Torx screws and pull a culliser back. Before you fully tighten the screws, check the height of the lid with it in the closed position. If there isn't enough free play with the screws loose, remove the lid and file the slots in the brackets slightly wider. Again, be careful not to take more than 2 mil from the rear of the slots. Before you refit the lid, paint any bare metal and allow it to dry. If this doesn't cure the problem, the tray will need moving forward until the lid is central in the aperture. The final area we'll look at is wind noise. The main cause of wind noise is the height of the lid. When the sunroof is closed from the slide position, the lid should be flush or up to 1.5 mil lower than the roof line at the front. The back of the lid should be flush or up to 1.5 mil proud. If this isn't the case, slide the blend out of the way. Now loosen the Torx screws and alter the profile of the lid. Finally, Maestros and early Montegos are fitted with a wind deflector at the front of the tray. This can cause wind noise and should be removed if you think it is a problem. Fit this finisher in its place. Montego Bulletin number 98 and Maestro Bulletin 86 gives you all the details we've covered. There's also a colour poster available to put up in your workshop.
Now, as we promised earlier, we'll take a look at some more record-breaking activities. On a cold and wet weekend in June, 2 Metro GTIs arrived at the Millbrook Proving Ground near Bedford. The aim? To try and smash as many land speed records as possible in 24 hours. Everyone's hopes were high, and they weren't disappointed. After 24 hours, the 2 mighty Metros had smashed 21 land speed records. And if you thought the people behind the attempt must be bigwigs in the motor racing world, you'd be wrong. Every one of the 80 people involved was a Rover employee.
Now, let's take a look at the new Metro and the problem of a flat spot or hesitation on 1.1 carburettor models. We'll be using an engine analyzer for this fix, so if you're uncertain how to use one, look out the Service Insight video, Engine Tuning. Before you start doing any adjustments or tests, check the correct carb and distributor have been fitted. Also check there's oil in the piston damper. After warming the engine on a road test, turn the ignition on and press the throttle pedal. You should be able to hear the idle bypass solenoid click. If you don't, check the throttle pedal touches the switch. If there's still no click, check the switch circuit. If the idle bypass solenoid is okay, disconnect the vacuum pipe and set the engine to run at 1500 RPM. The ignition timing should be 8 degrees before top dead center. Now, reconnect the vacuum pipe and set the idle speed to 850 RPM. The next step is to turn the idle mixture screw fully clockwise. The CO reading should rise to between 3.5 and 7%. If it doesn't, check for air leaks. Some areas to check are around the inlet manifold, the PTC heater, the cam cover, and so on. If there are no air leaks, the carb should be replaced and returned through warranty. Remember to set the new carburettor. If the CO is within tolerance, with the idle mixture screw fully closed, fit a new piston damper. Now, reset the CO to 2.5%. When you've done this, carry out a road test to check you've cured the problem. For a step-by-step guide, look out the technical newsletter.
Right, now let's have a rundown of the latest technical bulletins. We'll start with stiff door locks. If an owner has this problem, inject this new type of lubricant into the lock. It's available in a 25-gram sachet from Unipart. Any other type of lubricant may prove to be a short-term improvement, but could damage the lock in the long run. Look out the technical bulletins for more details. A large number of starter motors returned through warranty show damage to the Lucar connector on the starter solenoid. These connectors must be unlocked before you disconnect them. Do this by pressing the tag with a scriber while you pull on the harness. Petrol dripping from the carburettor vent pipe can be cured by fitting this piece of tubing over the end. You must not lengthen the pipe or alter its routing, as it will cause the engine to run badly. Check the bulletin for details.
Maestro Bulletin 99 and Metro Bulletin 74 cover the problem of coolant in the cylinders on A-series engines. This may be caused by the core plugs not being fitted properly in the head. Take a look at the plugs on the head gasket face. If they aren't flush with the face, the head will need replacing. Rover 214s and 414s are fitted with front brake pads that don't have a machined slot. This improves the performance of the caliper, but may mean a hairline crack will appear. This crack won't cause a problem, so you shouldn't need to change the pads.
Now to Rover 216 and 416. A poor earth connection on the engine control ECU could cause running problems. Check the earth path from the black and red and brown and black wires on the ECU connector. Look out the new Rover 200-400 technical newsletter for more details. Staying with Rover 200 and 400, item number 53 in the technical newsletter contains information on loud noises coming from the petrol tank. The problem can be cured by fitting a different type of two-way breather valve. Check the newsletter for more details. Montego Bulletin number 48 and Maestro Bulletin 44 cover the introduction of a new type of pass pump. Both give details on how to fit this modified pump into diesel engine models by removing metal from the engine backplate.
Staying with Montego for a little while, Bulletin item number 111 gives details of exhaust smoke levels from a turbo diesel. There are 5 engine conditions shown with information on the level and colour of smoke to expect. Look out the bulletin for more details. Finally, a knock from the rear shock absorber on Maestro vans can be cured by fitting a modified shock absorber. On older vans, a kit containing a pair of modified top mountings also needs to be fitted.
A little while ago, we took our cameras out to a Rover dealership. We asked the technicians and staff of Arlington of Blackburn to gather hints and tips that might prove useful to other dealerships. Here's what they had to say.
What we've got here is a Rover 800 door handle, and we're trying to take it off. And the problem is there's a clip behind here that you have to force upwards in order to withdraw the handle. So what most people do is use a flat screwdriver, but unfortunately you tend to mark the handle with that, and it also takes quite a deal of time to get it off. So if you get one of these tools from your Snap-on dealer, you just slide it up behind the handle, force the clip up, and take the handle off.
We have 3 teams in the workshop with 5 people in each team, and it breaks the workshop down so that we can analyse the performance of individual teams. Each team has a team leader, and they are sort of an unofficial form. Each team knows who their team leader is, and if the technicians in the team have a problem, they go to the team leader. If he can't sort it out, then obviously the foreman or the tester's then involved. We run 3 efficiency sheets, 1 for each team, and daily their efficiency is put on the display board in the workshop control office, so that at any one time each team can see how they're doing. And it does promote that little bit of competition, because teams see if they find they're at the bottom, they work that little bit harder and they want to become top. The other thing we do also is that if we get any comebacks or any rectification work, that's also displayed on the board.
We have the usual problem that you get in service departments, where we have a tidal rush first thing in the morning, anything up to 8 or 9 mechanics all waving job cards. Yeah. And we found that there was a way that we could adapt our computer system to take out some of the grief and aggravation of getting out routine service parts. I devised a series of kit numbers for each vehicle for each service interval. This means that at the press of a button we get a picking list for each vehicle for the parts requirement for that particular service. Using the service diary at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we can call off most of the requirements for the service the following day. Yeah. So by about 8:15 in the morning, we've picked maybe 60%, I would think, of the service requirements on routine servicing.
It's the normal customer key tag with the customer's name on the back. On the front we display the job card number, the type of vehicle it is, i.e. a Rover 213 in this case, the colour of the vehicle, because when you give the keys to a technician, it's a lot easier if he's looking for a blue car rather than looking at every registration, and the registration number. That, believe it or not, can take as much time to make that out as it can to make a job card out. So because we've got all the customer information, that's made out, and that is paper clipped to the job card. So when the customer comes in, all he has to do is to sign his job card, and the keys are put onto his tag, and then it's straight into workshop control. So that can take as little as 3 or 4 minutes.
Some useful tips there. If your dealership has any tips to pass on, give us a call. Now a real treat as we take a look at our final record-breaking activity. So tighten your seatbelts and prepare to travel in the passenger seat of Tony Pond's red Rover 827 Vitesse as it races around the Isle of Man at speeds of up to 150 miles per hour. 2 years ago, Tony Pond attempted to lap the Isle of Man TT circuit at an average speed of over 100 miles per hour. Then he missed out on the record by a mere 6 seconds. This year he was determined to break that milestone.
We're just down into 4th gear. Searching for grip now. Braking down one of the slower corners. And the tyres still aren't warm. You can hear the thing squealing and doing all the things they do when they're cold. Accelerating away now towards Braddon Bridge. Okay, we may have got some temperature into the left-hand front tyre, but we've certainly got none in the right, so we've got to be a bit careful again. Braking a little bit early, down, and you can hear again the
After
tyre
racing around
cold.
the famous 38-mile circuit, Tony's time was 22 minutes 9.1 seconds, an incredible average speed of just over 102 miles per hour, all from a standard 827 Vitesse. Some excellent, if somewhat scary, pictures there. Now, here's Paul with news of the Technician and Young Technician of the Year competitions.
The regional winners of the Technician of the Year competition were all put through their paces by the staff at the Product Training College. Practical tests were followed by a written test and an interview. After a very close competition, the eventual winner was David Wone of Arlington of Blackburn. So, well done, David, and his dealership. While this was going on, the young technicians were also doing their stuff. After a very close contest, Mark Wood of Climo Motors, Cleckheaton, was chosen as Young Technician of the Year.
Well done to Mark and to everyone involved there for the high level of skills in the final. Before we announce the winners of the Snap-on tuning kits, you might like to know that 2 new videos are available. The Marketing Institute has just released a program called Sales Foundation Service, which is aimed at new recruits to your service reception, while the latest Service Insight video takes an in-depth look at the Rover 825 diesel engine. Now, the winners of the Snap-on tuning kits. We offered 5 of these kits to technicians who returned correct answer sheets for the K-Series Service Insight video. The winners are
Jay Gillian of Copeland Motors, Aberdeen.
M. Butterworth of Lockwood and Greenwood Limited, Manchester.
I. Packman of PJ Green, Northampton.
L. McNair of Caffins, Ashford.
And finally, K. Sedgebeer of Wadhamstringer, Taunton. The response to the K-Series quiz was tremendous. By the end of play, we'd received over 900 completed answer sheets. Our congratulations to the winners, and a special thanks to the Snap-on Corporation for supplying the kits. Well, that just about wraps up this latest edition of Service News. I hope you've enjoyed it. See you next time.